Okay, so I finished Days and I really do enjoy it. And I very much highly recommend it, especially once they finish getting it all translated into English. But in terms of being able to review it, like I've kind of found myself in a place where it's a bit difficult because you have, I mean, this is the point where you just have a whole lot of matches. And, the fun part about it is, you have all the strong teams that ended up on one side. So you have, the pressure that continues to grow as Seiseki goes through, the nationals, as they first beat Toin to get to the nationals. And then, you begin to face other greater teams and whatnot. And, you have the growth of Tsukamoto. You also have the pressure that he's under. You have him wanting to quit. Like you have like a lot of themes in this second half, and there's a lot of it that I can talk about, but I think I kind of want to talk about some of those themes in terms of, maybe it as a sports genre in general, because I do have some ideas for that I have been working on. So, in terms of just, what Days is about, I mean, it really is what many of the sports manga is about. You want to get to nationals, you want to be the best in Japan, and you go through the various different tournaments in order to do it, and as the teams go, of course, they're going to get closer because you're putting yourselves in situations where you're having to trust your teammates and you're having to get to know people that you didn't, that you weren't quite sure that you wanted to get to know or whatever. It's kind of standard in that way. It's really good. I mean, because like I find it's something that I talk about kind of regularly just in my regular life because I do really enjoy this series. And it's one that I would probably read again, especially as I, improve my Japanese learning because like I said, when I did this, a lot of it was to kind of force me to have to study the language and take it seriously. So, I would not put myself in a place where I would say that I am fluent. So, I'm pretty sure there's quite a bit that I kind of missed and didn't fully understand. So, yeah, it's a really good series in that it will force me to want to go back and take a deeper dive and just kind of read and sort of pick up some of the nuances that I had been missing. So yeah, that is, I guess, my review for Days. What I really kind of got interested in, and it's sort of something that I have been thinking about because, like like I said, I am having fun doing this channel, and I want to continue to make sure that I have fun, and of course. For me, that means coming to a place of learning how to take things a little bit more serious than I had been. Because if I'm going to grow things, then yeah, I kind of have to be serious and I have to kind of talk about the things that I find entertaining. And, so some things have happened over the last few weeks. One of the things is my Netflix has started misbehaving. So I have a VPN. I've been using the VPN. I've been doing, Netflix Japan, and all of a sudden it stopped working, and it doesn't matter what server I go to. It keeps giving me the kind of US options that I didn't want in the first place. So I've canceled my Netflix subscription. And that kind of got me thinking because I had also, earlier in the year, I'd also ended my my Amazon Prime because when I took a look, it was sort of like I wasn't really saving that much money. And, it wasn't really that beneficial to me, because I know people are like, oh, well, you can watch the movies and listen to music. And the reality is I wasn't watching nearly enough that I found it to be a benefit, because there are more options that I don't want to watch, that the few options I do watch just does not make it necessary, because those are things that I can either purchase myself or, and be done with it, or just abstain from doing it, period. Plus, the way that Amazon is, you essentially put $25 of qualifying things in the cart and you get the shipping for free anyway. So at the end of the day, it just wasn't worth my time. So, as I said, it kind of got me to thinking as these things just kind of happened. Now, it kind of just solidifies what I'd been feeling the past few years about this idea of no longer wanting to pay for crappy content, and not wanting to pay progressives, especially, to lecture me. Like, I don't want to have to pay for my own lecturing. I don't want to have to sit there and be told what to think and what to feel, and, and then have to pay them in order to hear the message. I just would rather go on about my life and, figure out what I want to do from there. So a lot of what I've been thinking about is just the idea of what does it actually mean to have freedom, especially freedom in entertainment? Because let's be honest, even here in the US, we have lost the idea of what it means to actually be free. We don't actually understand anymore what freedom actually is. When you have viable competition begin to grow and begin to, enter the field, it ends up being crushed by these progressive tech giants. And, so there isn't that freedom anymore. And so it's become this, we talk about being free, but I don't think any of us really know what that means anymore. And so, yeah, I've been thinking a lot about what it means to be free, especially when it comes to being free in entertainment. And, I've watched some Brittany Gates videos especially about DSP and how not to run your business. She had one where she was talking about, what is the name of that family? Well, it doesn't matter, but, it was the how not to do things. And I really kind of love, her channel for that thing, because a lot of what she says really does kind of make sense. So one of the things that I have been thinking about a lot is the idea of finding freedom in diversifying. So like I said, I personally got rid of my Netflix because, it no longer was useful to me. And I've kind of reached the point in my life where if things are not going to be useful to me, I don't understand why I have to keep paying for it. And, the reason you see in front of you, what you see is because it's this series in Japan, and it's not just a series. It's a game. It's a comic. It is an anime. It is a multi-level thing. So, things like this, and, of course, this is made by Namco Bandai. So obviously they're going to have the kind of money to be able, to branch out with all of this, with the many different things. But, it is a bit of the inspiration, so to speak, the inspiration that comes from reading things like manga, watching anime, looking at, products like The Idolmaster, and, really kind of coming to a place of understanding that, freedom in a lot of cases is being able to have choice and being able to make choices. And so, yeah, that's really a lot of what I am kind of focusing on right now. So when I talk about finding freedom, I'm talking a lot about finding freedom in, the like finding freedom for you in entertainment, finding freedom for you to do, what you want to do. Like I think that especially with the internet, we are in a really kind of glorious time because, the internet has allowed us to be able to not just connect with the world, but it also kind of has allowed us to be able to not drink, but to think and to feel our way through things. So as we begin to explore, as we begin to just kind of imagine what can be, as we just begin to, think about, our own futures and what we like and what we don't like and things like that. Like, a lot of interesting things have kind of been birthed out of this new place that we're in. And it's great too, because we're no longer in a place where we have to go through mainstream means. So, as a writer, I don't have to go through, traditional publishing and then toe the line for what they desire. I can, create what I would like to create and then go directly to the market. And, yes, it takes a lot of work and it does take a lot of work. But I think, in order to be free, I think that kind of makes it a little bit more exciting in a way because, that freedom to be able to choose, that freedom to be able to say, this is the kind of work that I want to produce. And, that freedom to come in and say, not only is this the work that I want to produce, but this is the work I'm willing to put into it. And, really kind of connect with people on, a kind of deeper level. So there's this other, because right now I'm thinking of this other series where that was kind of the way that this one group did it. They, were more of a personal kind of group where that they wanted to connect deeply with their fans. They wanted to connect on a more personal level. So they were much more willing to engage in direct conversation. And, I did the video, of course, about Hollywood not caring. And, the more I go through this and, the more that I look at like Apple TV Plus and I look at Roku Originals and I look at the things that are now being offered in movies and television and things like that. And it just really kind of solidifies to me that for the most part, Hollywood has no idea what people really want. Now, of course, there's always going to be those that are going to take the offering. And, that is just, that's just the way that it is. But, I've kind of have reached the point, like, I know that I don't want to take the offering. I've looked at, book reviews of other books with other authors that I've liked and things like that. And I've seen people begin to complain, especially as things trend further and further progressive or further and further left. And, especially with the way things are now with the growing tensions and the growing kind of radicalism that is coming, that's just been growing over these years. I really do think that, finding sort of your line, because that's really kind of been where I am, recently, of trying to find this line of where I want to be and what I want to do and what I'm not willing to do. And so, one of the things I'm not willing to do anymore is to, have a Netflix subscription or have a, Amazon Prime subscription, especially if I can't have the freedom to choose the kind of entertainment that I want to choose, because at some point we lost that ability to have that freedom, and enough of us like, I think enough of us are complaining because let's just be honest. Like, you see the complaints, you see the criticism, you see that, but what's missing is sort of the force that kind of comes behind that. And that's sort of the hardest battle where, you see like the comics industry failing because in a lot of cases, progressives came in and they just began to take over. And before you knew it, comics became thoroughly leftist, thoroughly progressive. And, now sales are falling and, and there's still this, instead of the acceptance that maybe they shouldn't have done what they did, there's still this idea that it's your fault that it's happening. And if you would just, continue to pay for your own destruction, so to speak, that things would be okay. And so, there's there's a lot of, I would say that there's probably a lot that could be learned from the way that progressives have sort of like infiltrated, industries, Hollywood, comics, businesses, and all of that. And, to take that and kind of learn, like take what's successful sort of thing and, begin to try to turn things. So, I know that there have been people who've been wanting to, create their own comics and their own, worlds and things like that. And that is a great start, I would definitely say, because, it does begin with acknowledging that there is a market out there. And it begins with, just acknowledging that in order for things like freedom to exist, there has to be something that is on offer, something that, speaks to the growing market of people who are looking for something more. And so, yeah, that is, that's kind of, like, it's funny that this Idol Master side just has kind of gotten me to look at things deeper because it's not even like it's not even like it's a deep show. I mean, it's literally a show about, it's a show based off of a game, but it's the same idea. A small company is pulling people from their daily lives, and they're turning them into musicians or idols, to be on television, sing, do all of that. But, as a result, with this property, so much has been able to grow out of it. Like I said, there is the mobile game, there is, the anime, they do concerts with, the voice actors and fan events. And, like, there's so much that can be explored and taken and just kind of grown just from this idea of, wanting to just say no to the status quo, because if you look through history, and technically it really is, like if you look through history and you look at, times where we've just had this kind of like expansion, a lot of it really kind of comes from the idea of saying that, maybe it's time to step out of the status quo. And, this current status quo really has not been healthy for society. And so, as someone who likes, who likes watching TV, who likes reading books, who likes looking at comics, who loves, that kind of entertainment thing, it has been hard. And, it definitely has been hard to lose a lot in the mainstream. But at the same time, it's also been very encouraging to see other people take that as an opportunity and to just kind of take it as an opportunity myself to just kind of want to grow. And so, instead of doing the days review, because realistically, I think that kind of, days also kind of helped me explore that too, because it's it's the arc of things changing in life. And, what are you going to do? Are you going to go with the changes? Are you going to be frightened of the changes and kind of like hem yourself in? And, like I've always been one, I don't like staying stagnant. So, it's not to say that there has not been fear, because I definitely do understand that for a lot of people, there probably is a fear that comes with challenging the way that things currently are and the way that things are going, and, trying to step out and do your own thing. But, when you kind of like, make your mark, it really does, it really does, it kind of fills you with a sense of accomplishment, and gives you sort of a sense of joy, because, when you have pushed the limits, and it's not like, it's not like you're, although I'm sure there are those that would love to tear down the system, but essentially, because finding your freedom in creating, it is sort of like helping to tear down the system, but it is sort of like acknowledging that you don't have to take what has been on offer. And it's been important for me to come to the understanding that I'm not required to take what is on offer. And so, the past few weeks, it has just been this huge thing of not wanting to take what progressivism has been offering. And, yes, that it's, when it comes to entertainment, it is pretty hard it's pretty hard to find what you would like. Sorry about that. It is pretty hard to find what you would like, especially here in the US, where all they want to do is continue to offer you what they want to offer you. And, but you don't have to accept it. And I'll keep saying that we don't have to accept it. And I think once we get that into our minds, that we don't have to accept what's on offer, that we really don't have to accept it, that we can either go out of our way to find what it is that we like, or we can create it ourselves. And, that alone just begins the kind of pushback that is thoroughly necessary to ensure that, just for the sake of the future, so to speak, that, things don't have to continue as they have been. When they talk about the pendulum swinging, that, right now it's been so far left, that, sort of pulling it back the other way will take hard work and force of gravity or whatever, but it really can be done. And I say that to myself too, because it's not like I wanted this to be a motivational speech or anything like that. But, like I said, it is something that I have been thinking about, because, as things continue on, as I, have glanced through the news, as I have looked at the comic industry, as I've looked at or glimpsed through, sort of what's going on Twitter, and, kind of like this force that is, that's moving, trying to pull everyone left, I find myself more and more saying, that's not where I want to go. And, kind of like digging my heels in and saying, I'm definitely not going there. And, money is not infinite. It's very finite. And so, when it comes to what I'm spending, I don't want to keep spending on things that I know that I'm not going to like. So yeah, that's kind of been the place that I've been in. That's kind of been the things that I've been thinking of. It's, it's been as I've read days, as I have explored this world of the Idolmaster and, just things like that. I've just been putting myself in a place where it's sort of like, okay, knowing it's time to move and time to work. So yeah, that is it for this video. If you like this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, do the bell for notifications, share this, do all of that, and I will see you in the next video.